So I'm sitting here with Tylene with the Chambers County Museum at Wallaceville. Hi, Tylene.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So for the people who don't know you, please introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Tylene Wilcox. I was born and raised here in Anahuac. I have known Mays Middleton, who owns the museum and runs the, controls the museum. I've known him since he was born. I have worked here. February 14th will be 3 years that I've worked here, and I think it's the best job I've ever had in my life. It's just the most interesting and the most fulfilling thing I've ever done.
You know what they say, you find something you love, you never have to work again.
That is true, and that's very true about this place. I know most of the people or the families that we showcase here. So my ex-husband is actually related to the people who settled this area, and that's the best thing about this museum is that we have found that everybody's related to everybody, I guess.
What in life prepared you for running this museum?
I guess just being inquisitive and enjoying learning, because as I said, I was born and raised here. My ex-husband was a rice farmer, so I know the farmers and the cattlemen and everybody here. I know a little bit about their history, and if I don't know, I enjoy researching. Gotcha. That's right. That's one of the things that we do here is research genealogy, and we do it for free. And we'll help you find anything that you need to find. Are
you guys somewhat linked to the Ancestry or anything like that?
We're not linked to them, but we do use the Ancestry.com program, and we use anything that's available online or any of these books that we can find.
Because I just had my Ancestry done, and it looked like I didn't know that I guess I should have known it was common knowledge, but the U.S. does a census every 10 years. So I looked that up because some of my grandparents and things I couldn't find, and I looked up the census, and because like for instance my grandmother, we didn't know how old she was, because I guess it was a lot, people back in the day, they didn't keep up with it. So I looked on the census, and the census had it, so now we know she's 90 years old. But the whole time we were thinking, because she was telling us she was like in her 70s or 80s or something, we found out, oh, she's 90 years old. So now it's a good way that I could go back to it, and I know that the U.S. government, had it documented. So,
Well, a lot of times when our relatives, our ancestors were born at home, instead of, they didn't have birth certificates. So they had to go by maybe the neighbor's statement, somebody who knew your family when this child was born. And also a lot of times, especially women, they would give their age as either older or younger for different reasons. Older so that they could get married, younger so that they wouldn't, you wouldn't think they were old. And same thing with men is when they were 15, 16 years old, they wanted to join the Civil War, the Confederacy or the Union, and they had to be a certain age, and so they would lie about their age to get into the military. Gotcha.
I guess they did it so much to where they could see.
You just forget. They just forget, and with no records, virtually no records, and you just had to depend on what somebody else knew.
Everything word of mouth.
And the bad thing is, most records that are newer than 50 years, we can't get them online. You have to go actually to a courthouse and research public records, because it's just privacy, for privacy reasons.
Gotcha. This is the Chambers County. A lot of times I call it the Wallaceville Museum, but it's the Chambers County Museum at Wallaceville.
At Wallaceville. We shorten it to Wallaceville. Originally it was Wallaceville Heritage Park. And so a lot of people still think of it as Wallaceville Heritage Park. But a few years ago, it was decided to change the name to include Chambers County. Now we're we're not funded or
it's nonprofit, right?
Yes, it's nonprofit, and we're not at any part of Chambers County government or anything. This is nonprofit.
Oh, okay.
And the museum itself, or the foundation, was started by John Middleton in about 1979, and John had big dreams of restoring the town of Wallaceville out here.
Okay.
And different hurricanes, you know, took the buildings and destroyed a lot of things, and so that never did happen.
Can you tell us, what is this museum about?
This museum showcases the history of the people who settled in Wallaceville and in Chambers County then after that. It was the dream of John Middleton to, he wanted to restore the town of Wallaceville and create the Wallaceville Heritage Park. And he moved in several buildings, and hurricanes took those away. And so we've come down to this building, which is also houses the post office. And we have a variety of artifacts. We have this great genealogy library. We have a photograph collection and a collection of documents that people have given us over the years. So we study the history of the people who came and settled.
Okay. All right. So you said he wanted to restore Wallaceville. What happened?
Well, his idea was to restore the courthouse and the jailhouse, which had a hanging tower.
Okay.
And that was in 1979.
Gotcha.
And so he started out collecting all this material and these artifacts from people. People were really, really happy to give the photographs and the documents back then, and the books and whatever. And John and everybody who worked for him were just researching everything that they could, you know, and gathering up everything. Well, then different hurricanes that we've had destroyed some of the buildings, destroyed a church, destroyed some houses that were here. So we're down to, John moved in the Eminence house, which served as a schoolhouse and a house that was over at Eminence, which is at the around 563 and Interstate 10, that area there. And then on this side we have the 1869 schoolhouse, which was always a schoolhouse, was built in 1869 at Wallaceville, and it has served in several capacities and places. And then we have this building, which this building flooded in Hurricane Ike in 2008, and a lot of the bottom levels of books and documents were ruined. And so we have a house on the other side of Wallaceville now that where all that stuff is stored. We didn't get rid of it, but it's stored over there because of the mold factor, mildew and mold factor.
Gotcha. You guys are a nonprofit, right?
We are nonprofit. Okay. Yes. We operate under the estate of John Middleton, or the Middleton estate.
Okay.
And other than that, we have fundraisers, we have donations, we have members of the Friends of the Museum who donate a certain amount of money each year.
Okay.
With that, I send out a monthly newsletter that usually I tell some stories about something that happened, you know, in the past.
Okay.
And the original newsletter was a newspaper in the early 1800s. It was a newspaper that was printed weekly. Okay. So there's a lot of Galveston news and Chambers County news from those old newspapers. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. All right, so I would ask you to give a history of the background, which you already did. Let's see. So, where are you guys located?
Well, our physical address is 20136 I-10 East. We are at exit 807 in either direction on Interstate 10. You take exit 807. And we're open Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. On Friday, we close at 3. But we can be open on Saturday or Sunday if somebody, a lot of times people are coming from out of town and they'll give us a call and we'll stay open
for them. Like a special appointment for them?
Okay. Yes,
All right, so do you guys have any specials or programs that go on? We
do. We have, in the past, we've had some of the history classes come out here, and we have speakers. We let them tour the museum and the schoolhouses, and then we have a speaker for them for the usually it's junior high. We also give programs for different club groups and things like that, and so we're trying to become more visible to the county and to the whole area of Southeast Texas, because we do have such a good genealogy library, and because we have knowledge of things that most people don't. We're the only, as far as I know, we're the only museum which is a museum of people. We know the stories of the people who settled here. So, for instance, someone might come in and they say, "Oh, my name is John Davis." Well, that rings a bell to me, and I know something about his family, his ancestors, and then he and I share information, and so then we keep information. We might scan his documents or photos, and we have a vertical files where we keep all this information, so that someday when you're looking for your ancestors, if they came from this county, well, we can find out all about them, pictures of your grandfather, your great-great-grandfathers, and so I think that's important to young people.
I think a lot of people don't know where they come from nowadays. So
that's true. It's really true.
So what separates you from the other museums?
I think that fact that we are a museum of people instead of a museum of things. We have artifacts, we have things that people have donated to us, but people are actually, and I see this more and more, they're actually more interested in hearing a story about something to do with that artifact than they are just looking at the things that we have, because there are so many good stories about what brought people here and what kept them here, and those are the things that I like to find out, is what kept them here.
What are some of the artifacts that you do have?
We have the biggest collection of Harmon saddles anywhere. Now, the Harmon saddle is famous to this area because the Harmon family came from Louisiana, and they came into Orange. They built saddles in Orange, Texas, and they came to Hancomer and built saddles here, starting in the early 1800s. So they were the saddle that all cattlemen wanted to have, because of the comfort, because of the durability. So we still have probably 24, 25 of those original Harmon saddles. That's really something that's special to us. We have, I guess the next most important thing that we have is, I have 90 enlarged photos from the Cole family farm. The Coles farmed south of Winnie Stowell, and they not only farmed rice, they farmed catfish. They also engineered and developed farming equipment for Mustang tractor and for John Deere, and so they took photographs throughout their whole time of farming down there. Yeah. And this was a family of, I want to say 11, it might have been 13 children. The father died when he was very young and left the oldest son and the mother to take care of all these children, run this farm, run this catfish yeah. ponds, and carry on, you know, till the family was old enough to take care of themselves. So Steve Cole had these photos reproduced, and I have the whole collection, and it's a good story. People enjoy hearing and looking at those photographs of the Coles and hearing about how they managed to make it. Okay. We have things that are specific to certain people, like we have one room that honors Quentin Jackson, who was a rancher, farmer, and constable here for many years. We have another room where we honor the Sarah Ridge Picks, who was an Indian princess who settled in this area. We have guns and hunting paraphernalia that honors Kendon Clark, the Marshman yeah. from this area. So we've got a lot of things that were personal to different people.
Okay. What's your favorite thing to do outside of work?
I read.
You read a lot?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Obviously, all the books. What advice would you give a young person who wanted to do anything like that you were doing, who wanted to, I guess, start a museum or something like that?
Well, I don't know anything about starting a museum yeah. at all. But the advice I would give to young people is to interview your ancestors, interview your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, yeah. everybody who is living. Put it down on paper, put it down on video, record it somehow, yeah. document it, and ask those questions that are difficult. Even my parents, oh, well, we don't talk about that, they'd say. Yeah. You know, we don't talk about that because that was a hard time. During the war was a hard time, yeah. so they don't want to talk about it. Well, encourage them, you know, because yeah. otherwise that information is lost.
Yeah, when they die, it's never
mm-hmm.
from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. If someone wanted to get in contact with you, how would they do so?
My email address is Tylene, Tylene, Wallaceville, TX, that's WALLISVILLETX @gmail.com. Our phone number is 409-389-2252.
All right. So, well, thank you for doing this interview.
Well, thank you very much for contacting us. I feel real privileged that you did, and happy to help
I think you should do your own show. You got so much history to do. Yeah.